Hello, everyone. My name is Chase Hertel. I am the Deputy Director and Counsel for the ABA Center for Innovation. Today, we are talking with Judge Scott Schlegel in Jefferson Parish, Louisiana, about some of the innovative technology he is using in his court. Judge, I'll let you jump in here and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the work you're doing, and then we can jump into the conversation.
Sure. Well, good morning, Chase. Appreciate you having me on here this morning. Again, as Chase stated, my name is Scott Schlegel. I am a judge in Jefferson Parish. I am a trial court judge with the general jurisdiction, so I handle civil, criminal, and domestic. And Chase and the ABA, under the leadership of Judy Perry Martinez, have graciously invited me to come by and chat about all of the various technologies that I've been using for years throughout the criminal justice system and the civil justice system, and how during these unprecedented times, how we are utilizing that history of the technologies that we've been using to scale that model to all of our judges and frankly, the state and the country, and how do you operate courts without a building. So that's been a significant challenge, but one that thankfully we had already begun many years ago.
Great. Judge Schlegel, if you could, give us an overview kind of some of the tools that you're using in your court and making court process easier in light of the pandemic.
Sure. So I always like to start with, you can start with a simple tech stack and start building from there based upon the budgets of your courts. And some of these things are very simple and basic that we use all day, every day in the private sector. And so what I've done is simply taken everything that exists in the private sector and repurposed them for the public sector. For instance, a website. All of our courts have websites that have been around for a while, but a lot of our websites are clunky. It's hard to find some information, and they've been on there for years. And so what we've done is simply built a new website as a result of this pandemic, that it was actually already being built, but we've flipped it to use during this pandemic. That's very clean, has basic information that the public needs at this critical time, and started to integrate different products within that website to make it more useful. For instance, all of the orders, the Supreme Court orders, our governor's orders, our local district court orders, they're all right there on the front page. And as every new order comes up, we simply add a button and link the PDF to the front page so that the public can keep track of all the different orders. And when I say we, it's very simple. It's me. I go onto the website and upload it. So I say that so it's not difficult things. Look, I'm a lawyer, I'm a judge, I'm not an IT guy. I just like technology. And so that has enabled us to really modify in real time the information necessary. And that's $150 a year. A website that you can build on your own costs $150 a year. So we're not talking about big expenses here.
Great, Judge. I wondered if we could kind of unpack some of the elements of your overview together, and I'd love to start with the the website that you've built. Could you talk through us a little bit about the process you went through in building that website? And I think an important question I'd like to ask related to that is, was there any coding involved?
No coding. Again, I am not an IT guy. These websites are pretty simple. I mean, you find a template that looks good to you, and you just start dragging and adding. This is probably our third or fourth website that we built. So it gets easier every time. It probably takes a couple hours now, but that first one, look, you have to struggle through it. It's going to take you 10 hours to figure out what that setting does and what that button does. And by trial and error, you'll get a nice website. Heck, you can get an intern to help you out, or your IT department's probably real busy right now propping up the servers, so they don't have time to build a website. But look, you could find get an intern or somebody in your court system can build this pretty quickly. So anywho, that's what I would suggest.
Cool. Yeah, I'll just jump in here with a quick offer. If viewers that are listening to the webinar to our webinar today would like to kind of talk through some of those options, please reach out to the ABA's Judicial Division, one of our collaborators in this presentation, or reach out to me at the ABA Center for Innovation. We'd be happy to walk you through how to get started, and if you're running into some stumbling blocks. So another element that you talked about in our overview is online calendaring, and I wondered if you could kind of walk us through that in a little bit more detail.
Sure. So again, your website is your kind of baseline, and based upon that website, most of these website folks have products that they integrate already within their website. One of those products is an online calendar. So for years, I've been having lawyers simply go online to select their own dates in the civil realm. So when I first took the bench, we have the minute clerks with this big red book. I've never.
I remember the minute book well when I was a file clerk and law clerk. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I've never understood the big red book. And so the minute clerk would handwrite into this book what settings were coming up. And if a lawyer called, she would give that lawyer a date, or if a lawyer called to cancel, would scratch it out or erase it. Well, I never knew what settings were coming up. So I took that red book. I was not liked for 2 or 3 weeks, and simply took my calendar and put it online. Look, my calendar is a year in advance. Pre-trials are at 9, motions are at 10. So I went on to the online calendar. We used an integrated product through the website and made the offerings as if it's an appointment setting. The clerk of court is the official setting. We don't touch that system. We just layer on top of it with products that exist out there that are inexpensive, and layer on top of the system as a convenience for the lawyers and litigants. Again, it's all about customer service. I am a public servant. I serve you. And so how do I make the experience better for you, the customer? And so what we've done is simply done that. We tell lawyers, call opposing counsel, make sure it works for everybody. Pick a date, put it on your memorandum or your pleading, and mail it in. Push a button, dump it on your Outlook calendar. And I actually have a video integration so that you can attend pretrials by video, so that you don't have to spend 2 hours plus parking. You can spend 10 minutes saying, hey, how you doing, Judge? We're here on discovery. We're having trouble with this witness. The hey, how you doing conversation should be 10 minutes. It shouldn't be 2 hours plus parking. And so that online calendaring system that cost me $150 a year has completely changed the civil justice system for the better.
Great. Judge, it sounds like you are moving your court towards being like you said, a service provider from public servants versus courts being sort of a place, which is great to hear. And I think the pandemic is really forcing the profession, both courts and lawyers, to really think about some of these issues. I'd love to now move to video conferencing, sort of the $1 million question right now. Everyone is evaluating products and services in that vertical. I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit how you're using video conferencing tools in your court.
So this conversation must always begin with security and how you're using it. So it's all about use case. So you have to determine what type of hearing you're holding. We all have now, none of this is considered, I'm product agnostic, I always tell everybody. I use certain products because I've used them and I like them, but there are so many different video conferencing platforms out there that anybody can use, and you have to evaluate how you are going to use it. So the new proverbial term of Zoom bombing. So in my world, Zoom bombing is not as a big deal for my world, because if I'm holding a hearing in my courtroom, you, Chase, can walk into my room and see what's going on. I am a public record. You can see anything and everything that I'm doing. So from our perspective, that is not, regardless of the video conferencing platform, from our perspective, it's not as big of a deal for maybe if you're in a confidential proceeding, such as a juvenile proceeding or something that's much higher level. So from our perspective, you have to understand and appreciate your use case and start evaluating your own security issues, whether that is password protecting, having unique meeting IDs. Do you want your link on your website or not? So you have to start thinking through that. Then you have to consider, obviously, the security flaws that may or may not exist in those products. So 2 different types of hacking. The first hacking is Zoom bombing. Second hacking is, can you actually get in and infiltrate our court system as a whole and start dropping malware and start doing some nefarious things that could actually shut our courts down? So those are 2 things that you as a court system or anybody listening would have to consider. 2 different security issues or privacy issues, and how that plays out in your use case. So you might say that product doesn't fit my need, so I'm going to go to a Microsoft Teams or a Microsoft Skype or a Cisco WebEx or a Google Hangouts or. So you just have to find out what use case works for you, and then you have to start thinking of your budgets. Not all these courts have significant budgets to start going up to the next level of product. And this is, again, unprecedented time. So you're going to have to make decisions based upon where you are and what services you need to really provide to your community in real time, and have to weigh and balance the pros and cons and the risks involved with utilizing these video conferencing platforms.
Right. I love that you led our discussion about video conferencing with security. I think that's of paramount importance, and it's really an issue that if you're researching these types of services and software providers, you really can't avoid. Are there certain characteristics that that check certain boxes for you when you're evaluating a potential product?
Yeah. So number one, after you've gone through the security discussion with your IT department, now ease of use. Again, I'm a judge. I'm not necessarily a techie guy, but I'm probably one of the most techie judges out there. So these products I can use pretty easily. That doesn't mean that everybody can use these products. So you need to make sure that there's ease of use, because in this time, everybody is running hard in different directions, and an IT department, depending upon how large or small your IT department, can't address every video conference that we want to hold in real time. And so that's ease of use is something important. Something that's also very important, again, I'm a criminal jurisdiction as well. So I've actually begun to take remote guilty pleas to keep the system moving forward.
Sure.
For those types of cases that the defendant, defense attorney, and prosecutor were already working towards a negotiated plea, and they actually reached that agreement, but didn't actually get to enter the plea because of the shutdown, we are going to those cases first. Even though we don't have to, we are going to those cases first and actually starting to take remote guilty pleas now. So one of the important parts of the video conferencing platform is the ability to break out in that video conference so that the defense attorney and the defendant can have a private conversation outside of the presence of the court and anybody else, so that they can have that private attorney-client privileged communication. So that's a very important piece to our product or tech stack when we're looking at a video conferencing platform.
Great. I'm really happy you were able to discuss that with us today. I think that's an important feature set, that helps preserve, attorney-client communications, and is an integral part of bringing our courts online. My next, question for you, and I know our viewers will understand this, but I think it's something that we should cover in depth a little bit here together. Is, we've got lawyers in the courtroom work group, we've got our judges in the courtroom work group, but we also have a bunch of other stakeholders, and you are using some tools to make it easier for everyone to collaborate. Could you talk to us a little bit about what you're using and how you're using it, and how you get folks communicating all in one place?
Yeah, so as you and I have discussed on many occasions, we've developed what we call the smart supervision model in Jefferson Parish within the criminal justice system. So I'm a specialty court judge. We have approximately 400 specialty court participants in our drug court, reentry court, swift and certain probation, DWI court, the specialty court model. And those models are handling or dealing with high-risk probationers who typically have some sort of substance abuse or mental health issues. And so the model that let's just wait until there's a new offense occurs has never sat well with me. Mm-hmm. And so what we have done is begun to utilize collaboration tools and place all of these separate agencies on one platform so that we can react in real time, hopefully before there's a new victim and hopefully before there's a revocation. And so we've been using that for many years in our smart supervision model. And again, we are now just taking that and scaling it to all of the other use cases that you might have, whether that's in your civil realm, having your minute clerk, your court reporter, your law clerk, the judge. Really, what's your use case look like? What does your workflow look like? And what collaboration tool would you use so that you can act in real time? So for instance, I've added my DA and my public defenders to the same channel with my minute clerk, my court reporter. And in this time, motions to reduce bond are being filed pretty regularly. And because we have already had this model in place and because all of the key players are already on the same channel, we're literally able to hear motions to reduce bond within hours, not weeks, within hours, because we are on the same page and we are able to address it in real time.
Wow, you're great news there, Judge. I really can't wait to dig into some demonstrations of some of these technologies and how you're using them in the second part of our series together. I think there's another really important aspect that we, of the work that you're doing that I think we should discuss, and I've left it here for the end because I think it's one of the most important parts of bringing courts online and doing making technology a part of workflows, and that's change management. I've really heard a theme in your comments here today about understanding your workflow and starting with the people and the stakeholders that make everything work in the court. And I'd really love to hear from you about how you made change easier for everyone that you work with in your court.
Yeah, sure. So again, as we talked about just now about our smart supervision model, when you're dealing with the probationers within these programs, you have to have and address probation and parole, the district attorney, the public defender's office, the clerk of court, the judiciary, the social services, the counselors within the judiciary.
Are you going to run out of fingers?
So when you're literally dealing with what we've done, you have to look at all of the key players and why you need to address it. So for instance, I'll just give you a quick example in our swift and certain probation program. This is for probationers who have had a rule to revoke their probation, or this is their second, third felony offense. And it's one of those types of offenses that folks are saying, look, this is your last chance, but you're going to have to go on an intensive supervision model. That's swift and certain probation. Every time you violate the conditions of probation, instead of revoking you, we hold you accountable immediately, but proportionately. And so how do you actually find out if Chase tested positive for drugs and have all agencies operate in the same time? Mm-hmm. So if I say, look, if you own it, 2 days in the parish prison, just tell me you're going to test positive, 2 days in the parish prison, lie about it, 7 days in the parish prison, run, and we're coming for you. Mm-hmm. Well, how do you actually affect a 2-day sentence after testing positive for using marijuana and getting everybody and in front of me within 2 days? Because if I said, if you own it, 2 days means 2 days. So how do we do that? Take your drug screen. The drug lab says Chase is positive for marijuana. The probation officer says detain. Local law enforcement detains, takes the individual to the Jefferson Parish Correctional Center. The probation officer files the detainer paperwork. The minute clerk sets it on the docket. The court reporter, the DA, the public defender, and the judge all saw it, and that person's in front of me within 48 hours, and we're done. And that's all with Chase tested positive for marijuana, because we are all on the same channel,
Right.
and we see it and understand it. So that's just understanding your workflow and who has to be part of that workflow.
Right.
And utilizing these collaboration tools like Slack or Microsoft Teams, or there's plenty of collaboration tools out there.
Sure.
By using those tools, you can operate as one unit. And that goes back to the example of the motion to reduce bond hearings. We understand our workflow, so we're able to build the right channels within that workflow.
So when you were getting started, when you were just getting things going, how did you identify the easy wins, if you will, to put on the scoreboard, and kind of create a snowball effect in changing court operations?
By failing a lot first. You know, I mean, you just have to, when you're innovating, you have to just go through iteration after iteration after iteration. And I guess one of the points of this video series is learn from my failures and our team's iterations, so that you're not starting at iteration 1.
Right.
We're probably on 6 or 7 by now. You know, and then, well, how did you weigh scalability? How did you weigh public records requests? How did you weigh retention? How did you weigh ex parte communications? How did you weigh the secure transfer of documents? How did you go through all the different layers that we have to consider, because we are not private sector? So, you know, even though I'm using private sector products, I need to make sure that they comply with public sector requirements, bid laws, all these other things that you have to just think through, and you only think through them as you go through them.
Right. Right. Yeah, I you know, rapid iteration, I think, is an important part of this process, and I think our viewers and other interested stakeholders really stand to benefit from the multiple iterations you have gone through, and kind of use your court's example as a jumping off point. You know, Judge Schlegel's court version 7 is surely an improvement of Judge Schlegel's court version 1. So
yes, absolutely.
Thanks for walking us through that today. I think now, as any good lawyer should, I'd love to just open up the floor to you and give the judge I'm in front of the last word. Is there any words of wisdom or pointers or tips and tricks you'd like to leave us with?
I would just say there are a lot of to ensure that our justice system continues. So be patient, and also think through your workflows before diving headfirst in, but start slowly with a simple tech stack. It will change your world just having a website, an online calendar, and a video conferencing platform. It will, I mean, these online calendars not only provide the availability, but they also send text and email reminders. They also dump on your Outlook calendar. So when everything's going every which way, just having the ability to have an email reminder or a text reminder to keep you on track has been very beneficial, just in our regular practice, but not right now. It's even further. Also understand your technologies. You know, when you're using these different platforms, you know, I always leave this for the end, and Chase has seen it before. But most of you all probably think, wow, that guy's at his courthouse. But the truth of the matter is, I know how to use my technology, and I'm in a spare bedroom like most of you all are working from right now.
Right.
So if you literally work through all of your different issues like you would trying any case and just planning ahead for what you're trying to accomplish, utilizing these technologies, you can make it look as if you are in court at this time.
Right. Judge, thank you so much for leaving us with that information, and those important considerations. I really appreciate the time you've spent to educate all of us today. I hope you and your family are safe and well during these challenging times. Have a good rest of the day.
Thanks, Chase. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.